Hey mama, if you're nesting, tired, and wondering how on earth you're gonna feed your family once baby arrives, I've got you. I'm a mom and I've been there. Today, I'm showing you a compilation video of all the meals I am prepping for postpartum. They're easy, delicious, and will be perfect for weeknight dinners. Every recipe is freezer friendly, kid approved, and totally doable even if you're 9 months pregnant right now. And don't miss your free postpartum meal prep guide I've linked in the description below. It's got everything you will need in order to start prepping today. Since this is a pizza pasta bake, we are gonna start at our stove to brown our hamburger, saute our veggies and onions, and then boil the noodles and all the things. So we're gonna start at our oven. So first we want to saute our vegetables, our onions, and our bell peppers, which I already have cut up. So I'm gonna preheat or get my stove going and add olive oil in there. We'll let that get hot. While we wait for our vegetables to finish sauteing, we're gonna fill up our pot with water so we can get our noodles boiling. All right, get our burner going. And this way, while having the veggies saute and our water boiling at the same time, we don't have to spend as long in the kitchen, having multiple things going on at once. And our vegetables are looking really good, almost done. Whoops, flying onion. So I'm gonna go ahead and add some salt and pepper to our vegetables. And this is half of an onion diced and then 2 bell peppers diced. Since these are looking to be about done, we're gonna go ahead and add our pound of hamburger into the same pan. Just kind of push the onions and peppers to the side, and we'll brown up our hamburger. All right, so our water is boiling, so we're gonna go ahead and add our noodles. And I have 4 cups of dry noodles, or it's a 16-ounce package. So if you buy them typically in the 16-ounce or a pound package, just do the whole box. And I don't know what these noodles are called. They're a funny or funky, focus, there we go. It's a funky shape, pretty cool. I don't know what they're called, but that's the package I had, so we're gonna use these. And I am only gonna boil these for 9 minutes instead of the package said 11 minutes to get al dente, but since we're gonna be baking this in the oven, so we're gonna freeze it and then bake it in the oven, I don't want them to get too mushy if I'm over baking them now. So we're only gonna do 9 minutes boiling them, and they'll get cooked the rest of the way later. And our meat is getting really nicely cooked. It is almost done, so I'm gonna go ahead and put all of it together. So mix our onions and peppers from the side and just mix everything so all the flavors get nice and mixed together. Okay, our timer for the noodles went off, so we are gonna drain these. We'll turn our burner off. And then I always run cold water over my noodles to help them stop cooking. All right, I'm gonna let them sit in the colander for a little bit and just cool off. So our next step, we are gonna add some garlic to our hamburger and veggie mixture. So we want to add a little bit of extra oil so our garlic doesn't stick and burn to the pan. And you always want to make a little hole in your pan before adding the garlic. And I minced about 4 cloves. You could definitely use dried garlic from the store. If you have the dried minced garlic, that works totally fine too. I just love the flavor of fresh garlic. And so we want it to sit in this little hole for a little bit until it gets nice and fragrant. You can really smell it, usually around 30 to 60 seconds. So just let that sit there. Oh, it is really getting fragrant now. I can really smell that garlic, so I'm gonna go ahead and stir it all together. And we'll go ahead and turn our burner off because we don't need to cook anymore. All right, so I'm gonna bring our pots over to the island so we have more room to work. And since all the ingredients are gonna be mixed together and then put in a 9x13 baking dish, I'm gonna go ahead and throw the noodles and just everything in here because it's nice and big. It'll hold everything while we stir, and then we'll transfer it to our pan. All right, put our noodles back in the pot. Then we'll add our meat mixture. And I did not drain the fat from our meat mixture because it was on the stove long enough that the fat just kind of rendered and cooked out. So there really isn't a lot that I just poured in there. If you didn't leave yours on the stove as long, you could definitely drain any excess fat, but I think it's a lot easier just to let it really cook down and render, and then you don't have to worry about it. Since this is a pizza pasta bake, I need a marinara sauce or a spaghetti sauce that you have. So I'm gonna run and get that real quick. All right, so I've got my marinara sauce, and this is just Costco brand Kirkland Signature marinara sauce. You can use whatever brand you like. And then we need 4.5 cups. I'm pretty sure this whole thing will be 4.5 cups. Yeah, it's 32 ounces. 4 cups is 30. Okay, I'm not even gonna measure it. I'm just gonna throw it in here. Give that a good stir, and then we're gonna add seasonings. So I know some marinara sauces will come with seasonings, but I like to have lots of flavor and lots of seasoning in my food. So I always add extra. So if you have Italian, like the pre-packaged dried Italian seasoning, use that. I'm gonna use a mixture of basil, parsley, oregano, and thyme. Start with our basil. Looks like we are almost out. So I'm just gonna pour the rest of that in there. Like I said, I like lots of seasoning. I want my food to have flavor, so the more the better in my opinion. And then thyme. So if you want measurements, I would do 1 to 2 tablespoons of Italian seasoning. So next up, all we need to do is shred our cheese. So I'm going to put this to the side and then clean up a little bit real quick. Just put everything in my sink so that way we don't have a bunch of stuff everywhere. All right, so we need a good 2 cups of regular cheddar cheese and some Parmesan cheese. Not 2 cups of Parm. We're gonna do 3/4 to 1 cup of Parmesan cheese. So I am also gonna have available soon a workbook that you can access and use to help you prep for postpartum. So it's gonna have probably 30+ recipes of dinners, snacks, just lots of stuff that you can make at home. Tips on how to freeze stuff properly, a few tips on postpartum nutrition. So it's gonna be a fantastic resource. It's definitely something that I wish I had the first time I was pregnant and going in, because there's so much information out there. Some of it can be conflicting. So it's nice to hear from someone, you know, who's been through it before, what they recommend, what, you know, to avoid, because there's gonna be lots of marketing out there telling you that you need all these things, and it's a lot of noise and it can be confusing and overwhelming at times. So I'm really excited for this. It's gonna be officially launching end of April. So if you are seeing this before then, make sure to subscribe, check out the description. I'm gonna be posting lots of meal prep videos as we go, and it will be there, and it's an awesome resource. It's gonna be, you can download it, or you can also print it off if you want a physical copy with you to read through the recipes, to read through the instructions. It's also gonna have nutrition information on there, so protein content, calories, all that stuff if you are wanting to track that. All right, so I think we've got 2 cups here. quite a decent amount of cheese, and you can never have too much cheese. So even if you have more. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and I'll do half of it in the pot, and then we're gonna put the rest of it over top. And since these are going to be in the freezer for a while, I am gonna use the aluminum baking pans. I'm sure you guys have seen these or are familiar with them. If not, I'll link them below. But these are super nice to use for when you're meal prepping and freezing stuff, because you probably only have, if you even have them, 1 or 2 glass 9x13 baking dishes. And you don't want those sitting in your freezer for months, taking up space, and then you can't use them. So I highly recommend getting a bunch of these aluminum pans, and you can throw them in the oven. So it's just an easy takeout, let it thaw a little bit, and then you throw the pan straight in the oven, and less dishes, because dishes are a pain in the butt when you are postpartum. So it'll be nice. You can store it in this, keep it in the fridge after you make it, and then you can throw it away. And we are going to add pepperoni. I know I haven't said this yet, but since it is a pizza bake, we are gonna add pepperoni over the top. So that'll be our last step. And I will say the first time I was postpartum, I definitely thought I prepped a lot of food beforehand, but I did not. I didn't think to do dinners. I don't know why, I just only made like breakfast stuff and then snacks, which were great because especially in the middle of the night, if you're breastfeeding, you're hungry, so you want like protein balls or some snacks to eat that are easy to grab. So that was great, but we still had to think about dinner and that was a chore in itself. Thankfully, my husband is very good at cooking as well, so he helped. But I just am excited to have some actual dinners, especially now that we have a toddler. It's gonna be a lot more work with 2, and so not having to think about dinner will be great, just one less thing on my brain. All right, we're just gonna shred a bunch of parm over the top. And last but not least, we don't wanna forget our pepperonis. And I like, when I get like pepperoni pizza or anything, I like where there's a lot of pepperoni, not just like 5 or 6 sprinkled across. So I'm gonna really line this with pepperonis. You do what you prefer, what your family prefers, but I like a lot of pepperoni. And then we'll sprinkle the rest of our Parmesan cheese over top. Okay, just a little cleaning up and putting stuff away. And now we are going to cover our pasta dish. So I know there are some plastic like lids that come with these sometimes. When I did it last time, I found that they just got in the way in the freezer. I think the only dinner thing I prepped was like 1 spaghetti bake, and the lid is like this tall. So it takes up so much extra space that you probably don't have that much space in your freezer. If you do, that's great, but we definitely don't. So I would recommend wrapping it in plastic wrap. Nice layer of plastic wrap, and then adding tin foil over the top. So adding both those layers will just help it not get freezer burnt while it's sitting in your freezer. And then last step, I also highly recommend labeling what is in here, because you're not gonna remember that this is a pizza bake 4 months from now when you are sleep deprived and all the things. So get a Sharpie and you wanna label what it is. And it's also a good idea to write the baking instructions on here. So I'm gonna put 375 degrees Fahrenheit for, we'll do 30 to 35 minutes. That way you don't have to think about it, you don't have to look it up. It's right there. And there you go, your first dinner prepped and ready to go in the freezer for postpartum when you are all things baby and you're not wanting to think about dinner at all. So we are going to get started by browning our hamburger. I've turned our pan on. I'm gonna go ahead and throw this in. while it gets warmed up. And then once we brown this a little bit, we'll add some onions in and saute that along with our hamburger. Our hamburger is getting really nicely cooked, so I'm gonna slide it to the side of my pan where it will still be cooking, but make room for our onions. I diced up half a white onion and putting all that in here. And so we want to saute these first before really adding them into our bake and the rest of our hamburger, because sauteing them helps them get nice and soft, so then there's not just like crunchy raw onions in your taco salad. Tater tot taco casserole, that's what it is. Words are hard. And if you're brand new to cooking and you don't really know what sauteing is, that's totally fine. It is when you are cooking onions or peppers, any veggie, and you just want it to get translucent. So that means it will be kind of see-through and not so white. So my onions are looking nice and translucent, so I'm gonna go ahead and stir everything together, the hamburger and the onion. And then I'm gonna add in about a teaspoon of minced garlic. And a lot of times I will do fresh garlic, but I don't feel like doing that for this one. So we are going to sprinkle in some minced garlic, dried minced garlic. And since this is a taco tater tot casserole, we are going to add in taco seasoning. So I just recommend whatever your packet of taco seasoning says for how much you need to add, do that. Mine is, for 1 pound of meat, it's 3 tablespoons of taco seasoning. So that's what I'm gonna do. And we're gonna turn our burner down just to like a level 1 or level 2, a nice simmer. And then with a lot of taco seasonings, you do add water. This one says for every 1 pound, you do 3/4 cup water, and that just gets it to simmer together, get all the seasonings nice and melded in. It helps make your meat, versus it just being a hamburger, an actual taco consistency like you would normally think of. And we'll stir this around and then we'll let it set and simmer for 5 to 15 minutes is what this one says. Read your packet, see what it says. So we'll let it simmer. I'm gonna put the lid on it for probably we'll do like 8 minutes. You just want the water to cook through and not be watery. We'll let that sit for about 8 minutes. All right, so our timer went off for the taco meat, so I'll show you guys what I was talking about. As it simmers, everything gets mixed together and you don't even see the water anymore. So this is perfect. All right, since our hamburger is done, we don't need to be at the stove anymore. So we'll come over here and I'm going to hopefully fit everything in this one pot so I don't have to get any more dishes dirty, and then we'll transfer it to our tray that we're gonna freeze it in. All right, so we need 1 tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. And we're gonna add a can of Rotel chilies and then also a can of black beans. And I will be draining the black beans. And the recipe to making this yourself at home will be linked in the description below, so make sure to check that out. All right, we'll stir all of this together. And if you have made other delicious meal prep dinners or snacks or anything you wanna see me make, comment below your thoughts. What was your favorite item that you meal prepped before postpartum? If you're already a mom and have 1 or 2 kids, what are the things that you really were happy that you took the time to prep beforehand? All right, I'm gonna put this stuff in the sink. Okay, so I've already chopped up some cheddar cheese, and this is about 2 cups. So I'm gonna add all of that in here. Stir it around. And then the last thing we're gonna add before we put it in our baking dish is 1/2 cup of sour cream. And if you wanted to make this a bit healthier of an option, you could use cottage cheese or Greek yogurt instead of the sour cream. Okay, this looks bomb. Now that we got all of our stuff in here, I'm gonna get our pan out. And since these are going in the freezer, they're gonna be in there for a month or two. We want to use these handy aluminum baking pans because I know me, I only have 2 glass Pyrex 9x13 baking dishes, and I'm gonna need those in the next few months. So it is just so much easier to get these aluminum pans. They store really well, and then you can also throw them in the oven later once you are postpartum and you're tired and you don't want to think about what to make. I will link everything in the description below where you can easily find some of these pans and just all the equipment and everything that we have talked about today. All right, let's pour this in. And I'm gonna quickly clean up just a little bit. I'm gonna put some stuff away and put some stuff in my sink. All right, I just like having a clean working environment. All the extra stuff just gets annoying. And if you are OCD and you wanna have a fancy, laid out, perfect tater tots on the top of yours, go for that. You do that. Before I became a mom and had kids, I probably would have done the same, but now I'm just like, what is the fastest thing I can do? And that's just pouring it on top here, so that's what I'm gonna do. All right, so that is all we need for our tater tot casserole, taco casserole. I'm gonna put these away and then we're gonna cover this and get it prepped for the freezer. All right, so instead of buying the big plastic lids that can go on top of here, I would recommend either doing plastic wrap and tinfoil or get the flat lids that lay flat across and then roll over. Those would be the easiest, because last time when I was postpartum with my daughter, I had bought some of those big lids and they took up so much space in the freezer that is just unnecessary. So I would recommend avoiding those and doing this route. All right, and lastly, we want to make sure to label our food because I am not going to remember when I'm sleep deprived and postpartum what the heck is in here. So let's get a Sharpie and we will put taco, tater, tot. And then I'm also going to add the baking instructions. So we'll do 375 for 25 to 35 minutes. And that'll be, we'll just check it in between that time frame to see if it's looking warm enough, the cheese is bubbling, all that good stuff. All right, and there you have it, your tater tot taco bake that is already prepped and ready to go in the oven when you are postpartum and you don't want to think about cooking. First, I'm going to start by labeling all of our bags so I know what's in them, and it's just way easier to label them when there's nothing in there and you're not trying to like write over food. So we're going to label these first. I'm also adding the cooking instructions, so how long you want it to cook in the crock pot and then any items you need to do. So this one we're going to shred the chicken after it's been cooked. That way you don't have to go back and try and remember what you're supposed to do with it. So the first recipe we are going to throw together in our bag is the honey sesame chicken recipe. And I'm hoping these bags have like a little where you can kind of flatten it. So I'm hoping that works. I know that there's some nice bag stands. I need to invest in those. They're on Amazon. I just haven't done it yet. So now that I'm gonna be making some more freezer meals, I need to invest in those because that'll just be easier. Okay, so first we need our chicken thighs, and you could use chicken breast too, but the chicken thighs they're more dark meat, so they just have a more moist and richer flavor than chicken thighs do, than chicken breast. But I do know that chicken thighs are a bit more expensive, so if you're looking for budget friendly, just go with chicken breast. And one nice thing that I love about these bagged recipes is that you don't have to do any cooking beforehand. This is all gonna cook in the crock pot when we eventually take it out of the freezer and go to make it. Just gonna trim off some of this fat here real quick. All right, I'm gonna throw this away and then I'm gonna wash my hands because you don't wanna be contaminating everything with chicken. Okay, and I did try to prep a little bit beforehand so this could go nice and quick. I would recommend you guys do that as well. So I've already got my peppers, my onions cut up, and all of my sauces and stuff that I'm gonna need to put in here. So just if you're trying to make this really quick and not be in the kitchen super long, I recommend prepping all of it beforehand and then you can just throw it in. And these onions were strong for me today, so I've been keeping them in the fridge because they have just been, I don't know if it's because I'm pregnant, everything is just like more intense. These onions have been just giving me a time this morning. I need about 1 small onion in there, and I cut up 1.5 large onions. So I'm just gonna be eyeballing the amount of onion and just pouring it in. So we've got soy sauce. A 1/4 cup of soy sauce, just a small amount of sesame oil, very small, a couple drops, and then hoisin sauce. We need honey, so that's why I sprayed this so it comes out easier. Okay, yeah, I definitely need to invest in some of those bag gloves. Okay, and so there's just a couple items we have left for this one. We need 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And we do need our olive oil again for another recipe, so I'm gonna leave that out. And then we need garlic and some red pepper flakes. Now, I am not a huge spicy person, so I'm not gonna put a ton of red pepper flakes in here. I will let my husband add more the day we go to eat this, but I am just gonna do a 1/2 teaspoon just so there's some of that in there. And then we also have a toddler and she's not a fan of spicy foods. So I don't wanna make it too spicy to where then have to make something completely else for her because that's annoying. So just 1/2 teaspoon and then people can add more later. Salt and pepper. Okay, and that is everything for our first bag. So I'm gonna go ahead and seal this up and we'll set it to the side. And also a tip, when you are getting these prepped for the freezer, make sure to lay them flat so then they're nice and stackable in the freezer. Okay, and on to the next one. We have a red pepper chicken. So I'm gonna add another 1.5 pounds of our chicken thighs. And then these all would be really good served over rice or noodles. And I will add the recipes and instructions for all of these in the description below. So make sure to check that out if you are wanting to make these at home yourself. And then this one needs our bell peppers. And I just chopped up green and red bell peppers. The green ones are not as sweet as the red ones, so I like the mixture in flavor between the two. Okay, and that's about 2 peppers. Call that good. And that is everything for our red pepper chicken. So these are so easy and quick. Probably the longest part is just cutting up the peppers and the onions. And if you wanted, you could cut that down a little bit by using onion powder instead. Make sure they're very nicely sealed. I got the like triple seal bags just to make sure because I don't want these leaking in my freezer. All right, and we just have one left. Okay, so this one is a honey barbecue chicken. And this one has pineapple in it. So I'm really excited for that. I love cooked pineapple. I love pineapple on my pizza. I am one of those people. I gotta have pineapple on my pizza. So, all right, and of course we need our chicken thighs again. And these will be great recipes for you to make if you are also pregnant and looking for some freezer meals for after baby comes. These will be perfect. They'll also be great even if you're not pregnant and you just want to meal prep throughout the week and have some dinners ready, especially if you have a couple kids, they're in sports. This would be so easy to prep, freeze, and then just throw in the crock pot the night of when you need it. So this recipe, we also need our onion and our peppers. And I'm putting the rest of my peppers in here. I cut up 2 green bell peppers and 2 red ones. So I'm just evenly putting those in between the 2 bags. And then we need our minced garlic. I'm just gonna sprinkle a bunch in here. Salt and pepper. And small amount of red pepper flakes again. Okay, only 2 items left. We have a honey barbecue. If you really like spicy stuff and all your family really likes spicy stuff, go ahead and get like a hot honey. That would be really good. Again, like I said earlier, I'm not a huge fan of spicy stuff. I like flavor, but like intense spice is not my thing. And also my daughter wouldn't eat it. So I will, again, let my husband add more red pepper flakes or whatever that he wants. So we're gonna add about half of this, actually all of it. Might as well just add all of it in here. Okay, and then the last thing we need for this one is pineapple, and I am going to drain that because we're not really in season for pineapples right now. So I did go ahead and buy the canned pineapple, no sugar added, but I wanna drain it because we don't need all that extra pineapple juice in here. So those were our super easy chicken freezer dinner meals that you can throw together. I did it in 40 minutes, and that's with moving my camera and recording. So this definitely could only take you 20 minutes as long as you prep ahead of time and have everything ready to go. First up, let's label our bags. Since we are doing 3 different crockpot recipes, I am going to double them all. So we've got 6 total bags. We've got our sweet and sour meatballs, our Italian style meatballs, and a taco soup for the crockpot. So we are gonna label these up, and you can definitely buy sticker labels to throw on here. I just think it's easiest to use a Sharpie, and then you don't have to worry about the extra purchasing of stickers and whatnot. But if you want to do that, you totally can as well. So I always recommend to make sure you also put the cooking instructions. So low for 6 to 8 hours or low for 4 to 6 hours, whatever you need on there. And then also any nuances. If you need to shred the chicken before serving, you can do that. These I'm basically gonna serve over noodles. And then the taco soup, of course, will just serve by itself. So if you wanna make noodles separately or something, you can. Don't have to. You'll probably know when you take it out of the freezer that it's meatballs, so you need to make some noodles, but you totally can do that if you would like. I don't know if you guys have seen these bag holders, but I knew last week I made some chicken freezer bags in these gallon size bags, and I did not have these. And I was like, if I'm gonna be making any more of these, I need to order some because they are so handy. If you haven't seen them before, you just take your bag and then put it up in this little green clip, and it holds it for you. So these are gonna be awesome for what we're doing today. And I am making a double batch of each of our freezer bags so I can have one for my family to eat now before baby comes, just as like a nice meal prep that we don't have to worry about. And then also save the other one for postpartum once a baby is actually here. And we are gonna make 3 different recipes today. So these first couple are a sweet and sour meatball and then also a Italian style meatball. And these will be ones that we just throw in the crock pot once baby is here, or even if you want to just meal prep these if you're not pregnant. These are great options because you just keep them in the freezer, and then whenever you need one, throw it in your crock pot and you're good. And we're also going to do a hamburger chili recipe, but since I only have 4 of these bag clips, we are doing the meatball ones first. All right, so to make this really easy on ourselves, we have our sweet and sour meatball ingredients over here, and then our Italian style meatball ingredients over here. So I'm also gonna separate my bags, so I make sure to put the right ones in the right bag. And I went ahead and just bought frozen meatballs from the store. If you would like to make your meatballs homemade, go for that. That's awesome. I just wanted to save a little time by buying them pre-made. So either way, do what you are more comfortable with. And we are doing a pound of meatballs in each bag. So I'm gonna throw those in first. And these ones for the sweet and sour meatball recipe are just home style meatballs, and then I did buy specific Italian style meatballs for the Italian meatballs that we're putting with the Crockpot. Okay, I'll hold this one this time so it doesn't tip over. And then I already chopped up our onions and our peppers, and if you have watched some of my other videos, you know how much of a struggle I have had with cutting onions and not just like bursting out in tears. So my mom recently got me, it was just a few days ago, a nice chopper. I don't remember the name of it. It's a chopper to chop up your onions, and I did not cry at all. There were no tears, no burning, no nothing. So I'm just gonna use this chopper from now on and save my eyeballs. I also used the chopper on cutting up these peppers. So I have 3 peppers. I did 2 red peppers and then 1 yellow pepper, and just splitting these evenly in between our 2 bags. And all the recipes to these freezer meals will be linked in the description below. And then we need a can of pineapple for each, and we are gonna drain these. And the last thing we need for our sweet and sour meatballs is brown sugar. Now we'll take these off our stands, try and get as much air out of them as possible. And we want to make sure to freeze these flat so they sit nicely in our freezer. So that's why I turned it on its side, kind of tried to push stuff around. All right, one done, and we're gonna throw these in our freezer. All right, on to our Italian meatball style. Again, 1 pound of meatballs in each bag. All right, we'll pull all of our stuff over here. And I did save a little bit of our onion to put in each of one of these, because I like the flavor of onion in like spaghetti sauce and Italian dishes. So if you would prefer to use onion powder, you can definitely do that as well. And then these are nice 32-ounce pasta sauces, and I got these at Costco. And we're just gonna pour a whole one in here. And then I'm also gonna do 1 can of tomato paste in each one of these, because I like when my tomato sauce is not like super overly runny. I prefer it to be a little thick. If you don't want to do tomato paste, you definitely don't have to. I just always like adding it. Okay, now we will add all of our spices, and then these are done. I like lots of flavor in my pasta, so we're gonna add lots of basil. About a tablespoon of basil in each one of these. And then we've got parsley, garlic powder, and you could do minced garlic if you prefer. All All right, and we'll get these removed as well, get some of the air out, and then throw these in our freezer. And we'll make our last bagged freezer meal. And I know I mentioned it in the beginning, but if you are looking for a really handy meal prep guide on lots of recipes to make for postpartum or even just meal prep and throw in the freezer, I do have a free guide that includes 6 different recipes, a monthly meal plan breakdown, and a few other things. And then also I'm coming out with a larger workbook later this month that will have 40 plus recipes, grocery list, it'll have some budget information, and just a huge resource that will be coming out soon. Not available yet, but the free option is available. So that one is linked in the description below. Okay, so the last frozen dinner meal that we are gonna be prepping for today is a taco soup. And although you could definitely put raw beef just straight into your crock pot and chop it up in there, since these are supposed to be super easy, all pre-cooked, all you gotta do is just throw it in the crock pot. We are gonna prep our meat beforehand. So I am browning it in our skillet. This also adds just like extra flavor too. I feel like browning it, even if you wanted to do that with chicken, I do just throw raw chicken in my crock pot for the chicken recipes I did, but just browning the meat just adds an extra level of flavor. So we are gonna go ahead and brown our hamburger now, and then once we go to eat these, we don't have to worry about, you know, getting the meat, making sure it's not raw in the crock pot. It's already ready to go, and truly you won't have to worry about dishes. Truly, it'll just be a grab and go, throw it in the crock pot. Only thing you'll have to wash is bowls, spoons, and your crock pot. So we are making our hamburger. And while our hamburger continues to cook over on the stove, I'm gonna go ahead and throw our canned goods into our bags. So I've already drained our black beans and our corn, so we can go ahead and just throw that on in. And again, the link to the recipes I'm doing today will be linked in the description below. So make sure to check those out so you can make these at home yourself. And one thing I forgot to add in the very beginning when I was initially writing on our bags was that for the taco soup, we do need 4 cups of either chicken broth or beef broth once you go to put it in the crock pot. So I did add that before I started filling these and put these on here. I added that to my bag. So I would just recommend writing with your Sharpie, when adding to crock pot, add 4 cups of broth. And it can be chicken or beef. I've done it either way. It's ideally you would use beef, but really chicken works just fine too. I've done that before and you can't tell the difference. So either one would be great. And then last for our canned goods is 1 jar of salsa in each bag. It smells good. Perfect, and that is all we need for our canned goods. So we're gonna hop back over and finish cooking our meat. Our hamburger is looking really nice and brown, so we're gonna go ahead and add our seasonings. I have some onion powder. Usually I do a raw onion in here, but since I don't have that right now, I'm gonna go ahead and just add onion powder. And then since this is a taco soup, we are gonna add taco seasoning. And I made 2 pounds of hamburger in here, so we need 6 tablespoons of taco seasoning. And we'll add in 1.5 cups of water. We'll stir this around really good, and then we'll let it simmer for about 8 minutes. All right, our timer went off, so let's look at our meat. Oh, it's doing good. All right, since this is really hot, I'm gonna let it sit for a couple of minutes, kind of cool down, and then we'll put it in our bags. All right, let's package up our meat. And I'm gonna try and just evenly distribute this throughout both of these bags as best I can. So I'm not gonna measure or weigh or anything. I'm just gonna try and be like, oh yeah, this looks like half, because there's one, or I browned 2 pounds, so we're gonna put 1 pound in each bag. Also, I just gotta say, I'm so glad I purchased these bag stands. And I'll be honest with you, I purchased them last night because I was like, oh my gosh, I need to have some of these bag stands if I'm gonna be making some more freezer bag meals. One nice thing about living with lots of Amazon facilities in the area that they can deliver overnight for free if you have Amazon Prime. That was really nice. I highly recommend if you are gonna be meal prepping a lot of freezer meals to also get these bag clips. Otherwise you're gonna need a second person here holding the bag open for you. And you know, if you have kids or even get your husband involved, they can do that part for you, but these are really nice. And since the meat is still really hot, you can probably see the steam on the bags. I'm gonna let these sit out and cool before I zip them up and put them in the freezer. Move them to the side. This is also really hot, so I'm gonna let this cool over here before I start washing it. All right, friends, thanks so much for watching. And I know most of you have already left me, but if you have made it all the way to the end, I truly appreciate you. I did get my chopper out of the dishwasher. Earlier when I was talking about it, it was in the dishwasher. So I just wanted to show you just real quick, but you chop here, stores down here, and then it has this nice little piece, silicone piece that comes off to help you clean this so stuff doesn't get stuck in between the grooves, which I just think is awesome because that's my least favorite part to clean out of like anything is in between these tiny little holes. So anyways, so quick, but now that I have it out of the dishwasher, this is what it is, and I'll link it below. If you have issues with like onions making you cry really badly, I recommend getting one of these. And shout out to my mom because she got it for me. I hope you got some good tips and tricks from this video and some great recipes that you can meal prep at home, pop in your freezer, and have ready to go once baby arrives. So thank you so much for watching, and also don't forget to grab that free postpartum meal prep guide. It's linked in the description below. Got lots of information for you to help you start prepping and be ready for baby today. See you next time. Thanks, y'all. Bye.